Picture this. You're Sami Zayn, 13 years in WWE, 4 Intercontinental Championships, Tag Team Gold, United States Champion, but never the big one. You faced Gunther. You've gone toe-to-toe with Roman Reigns. You've been 12-0 against Drew McIntyre your entire career. 12 losses. 12 times you couldn't get it done. And now, January 31st, 2026, Royal Rumble in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The undisputed WWE Championship is on the line. Drew McIntyre stands between you and everything you've ever wanted. The building is packed with fans who've been chanting your name for years. This is your moment. This is your country. You've never lost in Saudi Arabia. Not once. But hours before you walk through that curtain, you get the answer. The answer is no. If you haven't already, smash that subscribe button right now because what I'm about to tell you is going to blow your mind about what really happened behind the scenes at Royal Rumble. The politics, the pitches, the rejection. And trust me, you're going to want to hear every single word of this. Let's rewind. On January 9th, Drew McIntyre shocked the world by defeating Cody Rhodes in a brutal 3 stages of hell match on SmackDown. Jacob Fatu attacked Rhodes during the steel cage finale, and just like that, McIntyre was WWE Champion for the first time in 5 years. The Scottish psychopath had finally reclaimed his throne. 3 weeks later, at Saturday night's Main Event 43, Sami Zayn earned his shot. He defeated Randy Orton, Trick Williams, and Damian Priest in a fatal 4-way. The story wrote itself. Zayn versus McIntyre, 12-0, the ultimate underdog trying to slay his white whale. In Saudi Arabia, no less, the place where Zayn had never been defeated. You have to understand what Saudi Arabia means to Sami Zayn. Born Rami Sabeh to Syrian parents in Laval, Quebec, Zayn is Muslim, and he's of Arab descent. For years, he wasn't even allowed to perform in Saudi Arabia because of political tensions between Syria and the Saudi government. From 2018 to 2023, while WWE ran shows in the kingdom, Zayn stayed home. But in May 2023, Syria and Saudi Arabia re-established diplomatic relations, and at Night of Champions that same month, Sami Zayn finally returned. He wrestled in Saudi Arabia for the first time since a house show tour back in 2014, and he's been undefeated there ever since. Zayn has talked openly about what performing in Saudi Arabia means to him. In interviews, he's described feeling at home when he's there. The culture, the language, the food, the people. Even though he's Canadian by birth, there's a connection that runs deeper than geography. When the fans chant Olé for him in Riyadh, it's not just another pop.
So when Royal Rumble 2026 was announced for Saudi Arabia, the pieces seemed to fall perfectly into place. Zayn, the People's Champion, undefeated on Saudi soil, facing Drew McIntyre, his career-long tormentor, for the WWE Championship, in front of tens of thousands of fans who worship him. But wrestling isn't a fairy tale. And WWE isn't in the business of booking feel-good stories just because the crowd wants them. According to multiple reports from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Sami Zayn believed he should win that championship. Not just believed it, he fought for it. Throughout the entire build to Royal Rumble, Zayn was actively pushing creative, talking to the writers, making his case to management, explaining why this was the moment. The narrative was perfect. The undefeated streak in Saudi Arabia, the 12-0 record he desperately needed to break, the fact that the last 3 years of his career since leaving the bloodline had been building to this, one world championship reign. That's all he wanted. That's all he needed. But WWE had other plans. Drew McIntyre had only won the championship 22 days earlier. The road to WrestleMania was already mapped out. McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas. That was the money match. That was the story they wanted to tell. And Sami Zayn? He was a speed bump. But here's where it gets really interesting. According to Dave Meltzer, discussions about the finish of that match continued right up until the day of the show. Hours before the doors opened at Riyadh Season Stadium, the outcome still wasn't finalized. Zayn was still pushing, still making his case, still fighting for that one moment of glory. And ultimately, it was Paul Triple H Levesque who made the final call. The answer was no. Now, let me ask you something. If you were in Sami Zayn's shoes, how would you feel? You spent 13 years in WWE. You've reinvented yourself multiple times. You went from the masked El Generico on the independent scene to NXT champion to main roster workhorse. You've had legendary matches. You've been part of one of the greatest storylines in modern WWE history with the Bloodline. You've won everything, except the one thing that matters, the World Championship. You pitch your heart out. You make your case. You explain the cultural significance, the undefeated streak, the narrative symmetry, the crowd connection. And you get shot down. Not weeks in advance. Not even days before. Hours before you're supposed to walk through that curtain and perform in front of the world. That's the reality of professional wrestling. That's the reality of WWE.
The match itself told the story WWE wanted to tell. Early on, Zayn went for a high-risk move, flipping over the ropes to attack McIntyre. But he landed awkwardly on his lower back, on his coccyx, and the injury was real. You could see it in his face, the agony, the way he moved. Drew McIntyre, the opportunistic predator he is, targeted that injury. Backbreakers, an avalanche white noise off the top rope, 3 consecutive future shock DDTs. The assault was relentless. Zayn fought back. Of course he did. He hit the blue thunder bomb. He landed an exploder suplex into the corner. But his body was failing him. When he tried to set up for another blue thunder bomb, he couldn't lift McIntyre. His back gave out. The match spilled to the outside. McIntyre powerbombed Zayn through the announce table. Medical staff swarmed, referees checked on him, and McIntyre, cold and calculating, pushed through the bodies and threw Zayn back into the ring. 2 claymores. That's all it took. Drew McIntyre retained the undisputed WWE Championship. His record against Sami Zayn improved to 13-0, and Sami Zayn's undefeated streak in Saudi Arabia? Gone. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Was Triple H right to turn down Zayn's pitch? From a business perspective, you can understand the logic. Drew McIntyre had just won the championship. Taking it off him after 22 days would have been a massive gamble. It would have derailed the WrestleMania plans. McIntyre versus Rhodes is a huge match, and flipping the title to Zayn would have complicated everything. But from a storytelling perspective, from a fan perspective, this was the moment. This was Sami Zayn's moment. The stars had aligned, the crowd was behind him, the location was perfect, the narrative was there. Some critics have argued that Sami winning would have been too much of a shock, that it would have hurt McIntyre's credibility, that the fans who were thrilled to see Drew finally win the title back from Cody Rhodes would have been upset. But here's what those critics don't understand. Wrestling thrives on those moments. Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30, Kofi Kingston at WrestleMania 35. Those weren't planned as coronation moments from day one. They were organic. They were reactions to what the fans wanted. And the fans wanted Sami Zayn. Reports suggest that many on the creative team actually agreed with Zayn. There's been a long-term story beat they've wanted to execute ever since his 2025 rivalry with Karrion Kross. The goal was simple. Show Sami Zayn finally reaching the summit of the mountain, finally becoming world champion, finally proving that the underdog can win the big one. But Seth Rollins' injury at Crown Jewel threw everything into chaos. The road to WrestleMania had to be rewritten multiple times. And in the shuffle, Sami Zayn's moment got pushed aside. So where does Sami Zayn go from here? That's the million-dollar question. The title picture is locked in for WrestleMania. Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble and chose CM Punk's World Heavyweight Championship as his target. Drew McIntyre is expected to defend the undisputed WWE Championship against Cody Rhodes. There's no clear path for Zayn at WrestleMania 42. Elimination Chamber is coming up in Chicago later this month. Maybe Zayn finds his way into that match. Maybe he gets another opportunity at the title. But realistically, his push is stalled. There's talk, whispers really, that WWE might be saving Sami Zayn's coronation for WrestleMania 43. And guess where WrestleMania 43 is taking place? Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Can you imagine? Sami Zayn, 1 year later, finally winning the World Championship on the grandest stage of them all in the place he considers his spiritual home. That would be poetic. That would be perfect. But that's over a year away. And in wrestling, a year is an eternity. Injuries happen, creative changes, new stars emerge. There's absolutely no guarantee that moment will ever come. What frustrates me, and what should frustrate you, is that WWE has a wrestler who checks every single box. Sami Zayn is over with the crowd. He can work any style. He can cut promos. He has legitimate cultural significance in a market WWE desperately wants to succeed in. And yet, they won't pull the trigger. I'm not saying Drew McIntyre doesn't deserve his reign. He absolutely does. The man has worked his entire life to get back to this position, and his story is compelling. But Sami Zayn's story? It's just as compelling. And at Royal Rumble, in that building, in that moment, his story should have been told. The fact that he had to fight for it, had to pitch it, had to beg for it, right up until the day of the show, and still got denied, that tells you everything about how WWE views him. He's reliable, he's talented, he's beloved, but he's not the guy. Look, if you've made it this far into the video, you clearly care about wrestling. You care about storytelling. You care about moments that matter. And if you care about Sami Zayn the way I care about Sami Zayn, then do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Not because I'm begging for subscribers, but because channels like WrestleCore matter. We cover the stories that don't get told on WWE television. The backstage drama, the pitches that get rejected, the politics that shape the product you see every week. And if we don't tell these stories, nobody will.
Sami Zayn walked into Royal Rumble 2026 with hope. He walked out with another loss, another failure, another reminder that no matter how hard you work, no matter how much the fans love you, no matter how perfect the story is, someone else gets to decide if you're worthy. Triple H made the call, and in his mind, it was the right call. But for Sami Zayn, it was just another door slammed in his face. And the question we're all asking now is simple. Will that door ever open? If you want to see what happens next, stay tuned to WrestleCore. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Triple H made the right call? Should Sami Zayn have won at Royal Rumble? And when, if ever, will he finally get his moment? Thanks for watching. And remember, the story isn't over. Not yet.